Ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the end. This is episode 11 in a 13-part series talking about our programming methodology, the hard-to-kill programming methodology, where we are really blending longevity and performance, what we all want ultimately, or what you want, hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast. So today I get to round out energy systems, over the last two episodes, and I love talking about energy systems. I've been talking about them for years. I've been studying them for years, training them for years. They're just a lot of fun. Like just the ideas behind it. I just think, it's so cool to be able to train them and to improve and to see the improvement in these things. It is a lot of fun. And we've been stair stepping down in time. So we started with the oxidative system, which is more of the aerobic base, longer, one-to-one work to rest, all that kind of stuff. Then we stepped down this last episode. I talked about the glycolytic, how that's kind of an optional training system for most people, but I highly encourage you to train it just to be ready for anything and everything. You can go back to that episode if you want to know more about glycolytic training and how to kind of put it into your training. And then we're going to round it out with the final energy system, stair stepping all the way down in time, which is going to be the Phosphagen, ATP, phosphate creatine system. Like I'm just naming all the names that you could hear. Like there are lots of different things that you could call it. We call it the GAIN energy system, and it is an alactic energy system. Like I said, Phosphagen, creatine phosphate system. Like you'll hear all these kind of different terms when you hear about this specific energy system. So this one is very unique. There are really two different ways to train it. I'm going to talk about each and how you might not actually have to train it at all, depending on what your current training is, even though it's an important energy system. So what this system does is it fuels very short, explosive efforts. So when you're thinking about things like a sprint, a jump, or heavy lifts, it depletes rapidly. So within 5 to 10 seconds, and you need a very good chunk of recovery time for full replenishment of phosphocreatine. So that's what this is. It's just think about like, okay, if I'm doing something really powerful, this could be a 50 to 100 meter sprint, something like that. That's why you see, like, my kids always ask me when, like, we watch the Olympics or we watch sprinters, everyone's always interested in, like, the 100 meter. You'll watch these athletes run 100 meters and they finish. They are not breathing hard. It did not look hard. They've been training their whole lives for that. And it's not just because they're in such amazing shape. It's because of the actual activity itself. These people are right within this perfect range of the alactic training system, meaning they're not having to dig into the glycolytic. They're not having to dive into the oxidative. They do not need oxygen. They barely need any kind of stored macronutrients in your body. There's no like energy source required. It's all without oxygen. Phosphocreatine that's stored up in your muscles, ready to be used for anything at any time, but it burns out super fast. So anyway, these athletes, they burn through it. And again, they are in phenomenal shape. I'm not going to take that away from them. But at the same time, when you see somebody run an 800 meter or a mile in the Olympics, they're pretty freaking tired after. It's because they're utilizing a different energy system. You're not when you're in this sprinting energy system. You're just utilizing, without oxygen. It's kind of like when you do a heavy, like one rep max lift. If that takes you, 5 seconds to fully do the lift, you're not like super winded after one rep. You might have to be after several reps, but one rep's not the case. So this one is really important for really just being explosive. And it does take a ridiculous amount of time. And this is to recover. And this is one of the most annoying ones to train if you sit down to do it with interval training. So the work duration for something like this is 5 to 10 seconds of maximal effort. I mean, these are all out explosive bursts. So 5 to 10 seconds, not very long. But the rest duration is a long time. Like the recommendations range quite a bit from the scientific literature. It's anywhere from 1 to 12 to 1 to 20, depending on the exact work bout and recovery needs of the athlete. But if you think about that, like we could be doing a 10-second burst followed by 180 seconds of rest, and that would be a 1 to 18. So it'd be at the upper end of this. Or you could end up resting 2 minutes. You could do, at the lower end of that, you could do 10-second bursts and then rest for 2 minutes. And what's crazy about this one is in all the other scenarios of energy system training, when we talked about the oxidative system, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel like, okay, I need that rest period to recover and do this again. When I talk about that sustainability and repeatability, you're absolutely going to feel that in the glycolytic system. You're going to go hard for 90 seconds. You're going to maybe feel like you want to puke a little bit. And then you're like, yes, give me all the rest, as much rest as I'm allowed. Let me have that rest. This is the only energy system where you're not going to feel that way at all. You're not going to feel that way like one tiny bit. And that's why people get annoyed training it, because they don't feel like they're doing anything. They don't feel like they're not breathing hard. They're not sweating. Like it's just, they don't feel it, right? And you kind of want to in a workout, but this is training something different. This is training a specific energy system for maximal effort. And so what's cool about these is you do kind of feel, the more it's trained, you feel like a complete badass when you're doing alactic activity. So when you only are sprinting 5 to 10 seconds and you have very adequate recovery rest periods, you're like, wow, I'm not getting tired. You feel like a badass. Like you just feel like you're this super conditioned athlete. And then, that's how everyone feels in the first 10 seconds of any exercise. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm starting to breathe hard. I'm starting to get tired. But that never happens if you stick to the appropriate work to rest ratios for this one. And the big benefits of this is just being able to put out more maximal effort. So being able to run, sprint, jump, lift, all of these things. And you really need to wait that entire rest period. Now, here's my best tips and tricks for training this, and then I'll talk about like the two different ways that you can actually do it, is you want to start on the high end of the recovery window. So if you're doing 10 seconds and you want to go, like I mentioned, like 180 seconds of rest. So 3 minutes, that'd be a 1 to 18, 1 minute or 1 to 18 work to rest ratio. So if you do that, you can start to back it down as you do more sets. So let's say you're doing 5 to 10 of these total for the day. And just think about how much time that's actually going to take. But let's say you want to back it down every single one. Back it down until you start to feel a little bit of the fatigue. Okay, so we want that full recovery. But if you're like, okay, I'm going to do 1 to 18, and you rest that 3 minutes and you are just completely 100% ready to go, then maybe back it down to 1 to 17, 1 to 16, 1 to 15. Just back it down a little bit to where the next time you do an interval, you only feel about 90 to 95% recovered, and then stick there. And the reason I say that is because this is how you're going to force your body to to get to this near complete phosphocreatine resynthesis, and to train your body to do it faster. And that's my full theory. That's what I think that you can train your body to do basically anything. But I think that's where you want to be, in my opinion, in my experience, because if you only ever rest well beyond what is actually required, you are training this energy system, but I'd say you're not getting better at the recovery aspect of it. And I don't feel like this is as true for the other two energy systems, but this one, I feel like if you can back it down just a little bit, you don't want to go like outside the range. You don't want to go down to like a 1 to 5. That's not even in the work to rest ratios I mentioned, but just backing it down a little bit until you can start to train this recycling. So anyway, how can you ultimately train this one? Well, sticking to those work to rest ratios of knowing that the work is going to be anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds. Really no need for anything shorter, no need for anything longer. And you can rest anywhere from 1 to 12 work to rest up to 1 to 20 work to rest ratios. Now, the best ways to train this typically are going to be some sort of sprinting. So you can do this on any apparatus. You can do this on a treadmill, given that typically the self-propelled treadmills are the best for this kind of stuff. You could do this on a track. You could run. You could row. You could do a ski erg. You could do bike, airdyne. Really, it's super targeted when you have these machines, but I really like to do it with something like an airdyne or a full-out sprint because it's just maximal power. Now, another way that you could train this that isn't even like in this conditioning interval mindset is just lift. If you are lifting on a regular basis, you could almost probably skip this energy system being trained because you're training it so much already. Assuming that you're lifting, your sets are 5 to 10 seconds in duration. Now, it depends on what you're doing, but if you're doing like sets of 3, sets of 4, something like that, moderate loads. You've gone through any of the strength continuum episodes I've talked about. If you're doing any of those things, you are already training the system. And so if you want to further train it, you could hop on an Airdyne and like really target it. But if you're like, I don't have time to do everything, well, if you're already doing some strength training, then you're probably fine. And I say probably because look at your training and say, hey, am I lifting about 5 to 10 seconds? You think about it. You're resting probably 3 minutes for a lot of these things, 2 to 3 minutes, depending on where you're at. And that's basically strength training. That's what you're training here. And that's how most people are going to train this energy system. A lot of people don't target specifically. And we do. We kind of do it both ways, strength training, and we'll also target it in like an interval session. But again, sometimes the limiting factor on these and why you don't want to train it additionally is because of the time factor. It's like there is a certain level of like, I don't want to have to do this all the time because I'm doing 10 seconds and I'm sitting around for 3 minutes. And if you only have like 45 minutes to train, it eats up so much time to really train this properly. So you can do this in your current lifting sessions and just call it good. Or you can every once in a while, like we do once a month, train it just to target it and try and improve it to the best of our ability. So our max effort increases, we're getting faster, and we're able to recover more quickly. So that's it for this one. This rounds out the energy systems. We have 2 more episodes left, and I'm really excited to finish this one up. But if you are part of our training and you're doing all these things already, we really appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of the community. And then for anyone who wants to have this programmed out for them, you can go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial, and we would love to have you. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.